AA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Just to clarify, the King, Rusty Wheelhouse, and James Clean Air were the three cars that retired after 2005. But these cars on the right side of the screen, which include Buck Schooner, have retired from the Piston Cup, but are still racing in the lower leagues. Now onto the rookies, which include Martin Carx Jr., who was on a part-time schedule last season, Cal Weathers, the nephew of the recently retired Strip Weathers, Brick Yardley, who will be taking the number 24 for some reason, Mike Yankee Jr., Mike Yankee's son, Clint Bokar, who was racing in the second division last season, JJ Traley, who will be replacing Bobby Carboni in the number 18, Reed Soren car, who's also a rookie this season, alongside his new teammate, David Stremrim, and another rookie, Jeff Bumpers, who is sponsored by YouTube. And lastly, Denny Carlin, who's going full-time this season as a rookie this year in 2006. He also has a new look alongside a lot of other cars, which include Matt Karzith, his teammate Carl Edwards, Kurt Buschtire, who has his first new look of his career, Mark Carton, who has his first new look since 1998, Michael Cartrup, who finally changes his look for the first time in his career, Jamie McCarry, whose paint scheme changed for the first time, Mark Burnsley, who will be sponsored by the PlayStation 3 this season, Bobby Carboni, who also has his first change in appearance in his career. Good luck, because he's got the King's number 43. Sterling Carlin also has a new look because he was kicked out of the number 40. Casey Gears also has a new look in the number 42, like Cal Weathers. Dave Laney also has a new look in the number 22. And Kajimo Mikino will be sponsored by the Nintendo Wii, which will come out later this year. Travis Draftville also has an appearance change, now in the number 32. Scott Windows is out of the 22, now the number 4. And lastly, Johnny Spinner has a new look with the number 70. Replacing Michael Cartrup in the number 15 at DEI is Paul Racedraft, who will be racing a part-time schedule this season and go full-time in 2007. Team RPM has introduced a backup racer by the name of Riley. Team Trunkfresh does the same, except theirs is Buck. Eric Goodcar, Oliver Engines, Tony Power Tire, Ward Burnton, and Daryl Dragon will all be moving to a part-time schedule this season, and Billy Oilchanger will be retiring at the end of the season. Mark Carton will be doing the same, except that he'll go on a part-time schedule in 2007. Now onto the race teams, where Pancake Shift Right Racing still has 8 cars! How? Rush Racing also still has 6 cars, but 4 cars had a change in appearance from last season. Blaster Charger Racing will be replacing Randy Refkins with Jeff Bumpers, the rookie. ECS2 Motorsports add Sterling Carlin to their team after he left Chip Carnassi Racing. Now, a business car by the name of Bobby Gear co-owns the team. Raverham Motorsports, the Pit Stops Revolting Crew, Chevrolet Motorsports, and Speedson Racing all have the same 4 cars as last season. DEI adds Paul Racedraft to the team, but they lose Michael Cartrup after he left. Joe Gears Racing kicked both Bobby Carboni and Donald Morphy from the team, and adding rookie JJ Traley. Richard Chill Paints Racing kicks everyone out except for Kevin Carvick and Jeff Burnton, but they add rookie Clint Bokar. Chip Carnassi Racing completely changes their team, with Casey Gears being the only car that was on their team in 2005. Alloy Wilson Racing is now a team of 2 with Mark Burnsley and Rudy Washtire. The Crazy 8s team are still sticking with the same 2 cars they had last season. Team No Stall has left the Anti-Chick team, leaving Kyle Traxon and Ryan Thunderbolt Jr. Dynaco Motorsports will replace the King with his nephew Cal Weathers. And Strip Weathers Racing is founded with the King being its owner, and Bobby Carboni will be its racer. Bill Drivers Racing rehires Dave Laney, but this time to race in the number 22. Another new team is Vitalin Racing, who will have Brick Yardley as its racer. The Mean Green car, who is also the defending champion, will be docked 1,000 points for what he did in the tiebreaker race in 2005. Hooray! He got what he deserved! Eugene Carnassi also has an apology for Ken Schrader because he wrecked him too many times. Ken Schrader also apologizes to Eugene Carnassi for what he did, and they accept each other's apologies. Now onto the starting grid. Jeff Burton will start at pole position for the 2006 Florida 500, and to his outside is last year's undeserving champion, Chex! Row 2 has Jeff Corvette and Elliot Draftler to his outside. Please do something. Row 3 has Carl Edwards and his new teammate, Jamie McCarry, to his outside. Row 4 has Dale Earnhardt Jr., who got one win last season, and Kyle Busch-Tire, who was a rookie last season. Row 5 has Lightning McQueen, who is now the most popular Piston Cup racer, and Mark Carton to his outside. Row 6 has Matt Karzith and Cal Weathers in his very first Piston Cup race. Row 7 has Kurt Busch-Tire with his first race in the number 2, and Brick Yardley's first ever race in the Piston Cup. Row 8 has Tony Gasworth, the 2002 Piston Cup champion, and Greg Beeple, who only has 2 wins. Row 9 has rookie Denny Carlin and the Rocket Ryan Newcar. Row 10 has Martin Carx Jr. in his second Florida 500 start, and Kevin Shiftwright to his outside. Row 11 has Ernie Gearson and Reed Sorencar. I hope he does something. Row 12 has Ken Schrader and the 2000 Piston Cup champion, Chuck Armstrong. Row 13 is Dale Carrett and Jeremy Carfield. Neither of them are predicted to do much this season. Row 14 is Casey Corner, who still has no wins, and Kevin Carvick to his outside. Row 15 has Eugene Carnassi, who just apologized to Ken Schrader, and Michael Cartrip to his outside. Row 16 has Hall Ingus and Sage Vanderspin. Both were slower than I thought in qualifying. Row 17 has Murray Clutchburn, the 1989 champion, and Mike Yankee Jr. in his first ever Piston Cup race. Row 18 has Brian Vickers and JJ Traley. Row 19 is Clint Bokar, another rookie, and Joe Brakecheck to his outside. Row 20 has Casey Gears and Travis Draftville, who's for some reason here. Row 21 has David Hite's car, how did he qualify? And Misty Motocross to his outside. Starting in 43rd is Billy Oilchanger, who will be making his final Florida 500 start. And too many cars failed to qualify. How did David Hite's car beat these guys in qualifying? The video's already 8 minutes long. Now let's get on to the race, where Jeff Burton will lead the first 18 laps, but then Elliot Draftler would take the lead from him, leading until lap 23, where Jeff Corvette will take the lead from him. He'd only lead for 2 laps, because Matt Karzith will pass him for the lead. He'll lead for 2 laps before he'd lose the lead to Dale Earnhardt Jr., who will lead for 2 laps himself before he'd lose the lead to Tony Gasworth. Tony Gasworth will lead all the way until lap 47, where Jamie McCarry would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 2 laps before the Rocket Ryan Newcar will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 57, where Matt Karzith will retake the lead. He'd lead all the way until lap 80. But Mean Green car Chex has to be 8th as of lap 78. When he wrecks Carl Edwards. Why? Kurt Busch-Tire will take the lead on lap 81, leading until lap 82, where Travis Draftville will take the lead off of pit cycles. Less than 2 seconds later, Matt Karzith would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 2 laps before he'd lose the lead to Kevin Carvick. But he himself will lead for 2 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 90, where Matt Karzith will retake the lead. He'd lead for around half a lap before Eugene Carnassi will take the lead from him. He'd lead for 2 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. will retake the lead. He'd lead for 10 laps before the rookie Cal Weathers will take the lead from him. He'd lead his first 2 laps, but not a third because one of the older cars, Mark Carton, will take the lead from him. He'd lead for 3 laps, but Tony Gasworth has to be 16th as of lap 107. Where he wrecks Matt Karzith. Wait, he's not out? How? Lightning McQueen will take the lead after the restart, leading for 3 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. will retake the lead. He'd lead for 2 laps before he'd lose the lead to Greg Beeple, who will lead some more laps, leading until lap 114, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. will retake the lead. He'd lead for 2 laps before Kyle Busch will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 120, where Lightning McQueen will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 126, where Mark Carton will retake the lead. He'd lead until lap 141, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. once again retakes the lead. He'd lead for 2 laps before Brian Vickers will take the lead from him. He'd lead for 5 laps before rookie Cal Weathers will retake the lead. He'd lead until lap 152, where last season's Rookie of the Year, Lightning McQueen, will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 158, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 163, where the Rocket Ryan Newcar will once again take the lead. He'd lead until lap 177, where Chuck Armstrong will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 183, but Chuck Rex is 22nd as of lap 178, where he wrecks Kurt Busch tire, Sage Vanderspin, Billy Oil Changer, JJ Traley, and David Height's car. Why? Brian Vickers will take the lead on lap 183, leading for 3 laps before Lightning McQueen will take the lead from him, leading until lap 203. But Mean Green Car Check X has to be 25th as of lap 198, where he wrecks Hollingus, Jeremy Carfield, and Jamie McCarry. Why? Greg Beeple will take the lead for 5 laps until lap 208, where Kevin Shiftwright will take the lead from him. He'd lead for 4 laps before Casey Corner will take the lead from him. He'd lead for 2 laps before Cal Weathers will take the lead from him, leading for 5 more laps before Lightning McQueen will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 221, where Chuck Armstrong would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 224, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 9 laps, but unfortunately, Eugene Carnassi is out because of an engine failure on lap 232. Ryan Newcar, the Rocket, will take the lead on lap 233 and lead for 3 laps before Brick Yardley will lead his first 3 laps from lap 236 to lap 239, where Lightning McQueen will retake the lead, leading to lap 243, where Mark Carton will take the lead from him. He'd only lead for 2 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 252, where Kevin Harvick would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 4 laps before the Rocket Ryan Newcar will take the lead from him. He'd lead for 3 laps before Greg Beeple will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 263, where Lightning McQueen uses the wall to pass him. But on lap 269, rookie Denny Carlin will take the lead from Lightning McQueen, leading until lap 270, where Dale Earnhardt Jr., the 2004 Florida 500 winner, will lead for 4 laps before Ernie Gearson would take the lead from him. He'd lead for only 3 laps before Chuck Armstrong would once again take the lead, leading until lap 279, where Casey Corner will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 281, where Ryan Newcar would take the lead once again, leading for 5 laps before Lightning McQueen would once again take the lead, leading until lap 289, where Cal Weathers will retake the lead for the 2nd time this race, leading until lap 294, where Brian Vickers will lead for 2 laps. But unfortunately, the Mean Green Car Check X leads for 2 laps. Kevin Harvick is 2nd as of lap 298, where he wrecks the Mean Green Car. Hooray! He's out! Kevin Harvick will take the lead on lap 298, leading until lap 306, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would once again retake the lead. He'd lead for 11 laps before Lightning McQueen would take the lead for himself. He'd lead until lap 320, where Kevin Shiftwright would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 325, where Mark Carton will once again take the lead. He'd lead for 11 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. will once again take the lead. But this time he'd lead for 2 laps. Cal Weathers will once again take the lead in his very first race, leading until lap 339. Mike Yankee Jr. will lead his first lap on lap 339, but he'd lose the lead on lap 340 to Cal Weathers. who will lead some more laps, leading until lap 343, where Greg Beeple would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 352, where the Rocket, Ryan Newcar, rocket past him, leading until lap 355. Kyle Busch-Tire will take the lead for himself on lap 355, leading until lap 363, where Brick Yardley will use the wall to pass him. But then Greg Beeple will pass Brick Yardley 3 wide to take the lead on lap 367. On lap 371, Tony Gassert will take the lead for himself, leading for 2 more laps before Matt Karzith would take the lead for himself, leading until lap 376, where Elliot Draftler will take the lead once more. But on lap 379, he'd lose the lead. But not before Joe Brickcheck goes down 1 lap. The car that actually took the lead was Mark Carton, who'd lead until lap 382, where Chuck Armstrong, who's won more Florida 500s than Mark Carton, will lead some laps. But on lap 386, Kevin Shiftwright will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 391, where Lightning McQueen will take the lead for himself, leading for 10 laps before rookie Cal Weathers will once again take the lead. He'd lead until lap 403, where Kyle Busch-Tire would take the lead. He'd lead until lap 408, where Casey Corner would take the lead for himself, leading until lap 409, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. would make a 4-wide pass for the lead, leading until lap 415, where Maury Clutchburn would take the lead. He'd lead until lap 417, where Mark Carton will once again take the lead, leading until lap 422. Jeff Burnton will go down 1 lap on lap 419. Ryan Newcar will make a 3-wide pass for the lead, and he'd lead until lap 427, where Mike Yankee Jr. will lead until lap 432. But that's because Mark Carton takes the lead again on this lap. He'd lead until lap 434, where his teammate Greg Beeple will take the lead from him, leading for 2 laps before Kevin Carvick will take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 439, where Chuck Armstrong would take the lead from him. He'd lead for 5 laps before Dale Earnhardt Jr. would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 447, where Kyle Busch-Tire would take the lead from him. He'd lead until lap 452, where Cal Weathers will once again take the lead. He'd lead for 7 laps before Brian Vickers will retake the lead, leading until lap 460, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. will once again take the lead. This time he leads for 8 laps. Kevin Shiftwright will take the lead from him on lap 468, leading until lap 472, where Cal Weathers will once again take the lead. But then he'd lose the lead to another rookie, Brick Yardley. He'd lead until lap 475, where he'd lose the lead to Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen would lead until lap 477, where Ryan Newcar, the Rocket, will once again take the lead. But he'd only lead for 1 lap because Brian Vickers passes him 3 wide. But on lap 486, Lightning McQueen will take the lead, leading for the final 14 laps to win the 2006 Florida 500. This is Lightning McQueen's 9th career win and his first win at the Florida International Speedway. Here is the top 20 of the race, with Casey Gears finishing 2nd, even though he led no laps and quite a few rookies finished in the top 20.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
You'll notice that this video is 19 minutes long! How is any video on the hashtag KBullets YouTube channel 19 minutes long? Anyways, the rest of the 2006 Piston Cup season. Well, the next video is 2006 Piston Cup Races 2-35 Part 1. That video will be coming out soon enough.